Now we are going to start with the topic that is the quantum numbers. See, quantum numbers are actually a set of 4 numbers that are capable of determining the complete address of electron. That means quantum number, we will be having a 4 quantum numbers, and like when we will study those quantum numbers or with the values of those quantum number, we will get the complete address of an electron. Because it is a big confusion that everybody face, that where the electron is present, because we have encountered many drawbacks, like we have a drawback for Bohr model, we have a drawback for Rutherford model, we have so many drawbacks. So it was not actually clear that where the electron is actually present, what is the energy of electron, where is an orbit, where is an orbital, where is the subshell. So just to make you complete, you can say, give you the complete information about it, we have a quantum numbers. So quantum numbers is nothing but a set of 4 numbers which will determine the complete address of an electron. Like by knowing its value, you will know that where an electron is present, what is inside that, and like what are the shapes and all. So we will be discussing these quantum numbers. These are very interesting topic, and you encounter many type of question in the paper based on quantum number. So we have different quantum numbers. One is the principal one, second is the azimuthal one, third is the magnetic one, and fourth is the spin. Now I would like to discuss with you that I want that you should know that like from where these quantum numbers originated, or like what activity just provided the idea of existence of this type of quantum number, right. So first is the principal quantum number. The principal quantum number actually determines the orbit. As you all know that Bohr suggests that around the nucleus there are orbits present, there are specific energy levels, we call them as orbit. So it was already known by, like after the Bohr model, he said that around nucleus there are orbits. So that orbit is here acting as a principal quantum number, right. Now the second is azimuthal quantum number. Like from where does we got an information related to this azimuthal quantum number? It is also called subsidiary quantum number, right. See, when we saw the spectra, what were the drawbacks of the Bohr model, if you recall that? So I think you can easily recall all those things, that when Bohr studied the atomic spectra, like he explained everything about the hydrogen spectra, right. But when we observed those lines occurring in Lyman, Balmer and those series, we saw that those specific lines were actually formed of very, very fine lines. So that means those fine lines just indicated that the energy of the electron is not the same one in the same orbit, they possess different energies. So from there we got an idea of the azimuthal quantum number. And you know that the azimuthal quantum number provide the information related to the subshells. It states that like in orbit we know that electrons are present, but the electrons are not possessing the same angular momentum, they are not possessing the same energy. So likewise some electron is found somewhere else, some electron is found somewhere else, just in the order of their energies, right, relative energies. We compare those energies and accordingly they have different angular momentum. That is why we get to see many fine lines occurring in a specific line in the hydrogen spectra. So from there we got an idea related to this azimuthal quantum number. Third is the magnetic quantum number. If you can recall one of the drawback again of the Bohr model, it was that he failed to explain the Zeeman and Stark effect. What was that? It was that when those spectral lines were exposed to magnetic field or electric field, they further split into many fine lines. So why they were splitting actually? Why they were splitting? The question was this, that why they get to split into, you can say a single line split into many lines when we expose them to magnetic field or electric field. That is what we have Zeeman or Stark effect. So that from there you can say we got an information related to this magnetic quantum number. As it was concluded that, as I told you, that we have an orbit, and in orbit the electrons do not possess same angular momentum, therefore we have subshells according to the different angular momentum. And likewise in subshell what happens, like when the electrons are present in subshells and we expose it to magnetic and electric field, what they get oriented in different directions. That means they get or you can say they move in preferred or like they get oriented in preferred direction. So that orientation just confirm the existence of this magnetic quantum number that determines the orbitals. And the fourth one is the spin. As the name suggests, it just gives the information that how the electron is spinning, clockwise or anti-clockwise. So it is just related to the spinning of electron. So these are the 4 quantum numbers. I think you got an idea that from where these quantum numbers got originated, and they were just meant for the complete description of the electron, that where the electron is present, what is the angular momentum of the electron, in the like in this how many electrons are going to present. We'll be just discussing all those in detail, right? So I think it's clear. Principal quantum number came from the Bohr orbit. Azimuthal quantum number came from the fact that each line consists of many fine lines. Magnetic quantum number came from the fact that all spectral lines, when exposed to magnetic or electric field, they further split into the many lines, and this is the spin which just indicate that how the electron is spinning, that means clockwise or anti-clockwise. So we'll be just taking up and starting with all the quantum numbers, and I'll be just explaining you that what these quantum numbers actually try to give info about. So the first is principal quantum number. So principal quantum number is that which is determining a shell, which indicates the number of shell. It is given by, the abbreviation which is used for the principal quantum number is n, the symbol which is used for n, as it was done by the Bohr, same way. So n is going to be a whole number. First you have to keep in mind it is always a whole number, and it is never 0. So that means its value can be 1, 2, 3 depending upon the number of the shell. So for the first shell we also use the term k, for second we call L, M, N, you all know that. So but here when we will be writing the quantum number, we won't be using k, L, M, N. Instead of that we will be using 1, 2, 3, 4 for the specific number of the shells. Now like if I have nucleus here and this is my n is equal to 1, so that is this is my first shell. So what info it is trying to just give to us, like what info it is just you can say why it is meant, or what information is it trying to give. So the first information is that it is just trying to give the average distance of this orbit from the center of the nucleus. So that means it determines the distance of a shell from the nucleus. And likewise, as Bohr said, that we can also have the energy for the specific orbit, not for all the multi-electron atoms, but for you can say hydrogen or hydrogen-like atoms. It is given by E is equal to 2 pi square me4 n square h square. We know that. So energy for any orbit for hydrogen-like atoms or a hydrogen atom is given by this formula. So we can say it determines the energy of the shell also, but for only hydrogen or hydrogen-like small atoms. Likewise, the orbit just confirms us that how many electron it can actually possess. The maximum number of electron it can accommodate is given by a Bohr-Bury rule, that is 2n square. It was again given by the Bohr. For example, if we want to see that total number of electrons that can be accommodated in the first orbit, so we will be putting n as 1. So that means the maximum number of electron that can be accommodated is only 2. And for the second orbit, likewise we can put here, so it comes out to be 8. So likewise we can know about maximum number of electron that an orbit can have. See, orbit is a big place, right? Or in orbit has a subshell, and subshell has an orbit inside it. So in an orbit we comprise, or it comprises of all the electrons which are present in subshell or orbitals. We club all of them and we just give that how many electrons an orbit can accommodate, just depend upon 2n square. So it just gives the number of electron that a total orbit can have. So this is what is the principal quantum number, right? Second is azimuthal quantum number. So as I told you that it came from the fact that each spectral line is formed of many fine lines. So that is why that just indicate that they possess different angular momentum, they possess different energy. That is why they are found at different places, or we see that each spectral line is formed of many fine lines. It is denoted by L, right? And its value is always 1 less than n. For example, if I say n is equal to 2, so L is always going to be n minus 1, so it will be 0 and 1. It can be 0 also, like whenever you have to write the value for L, the maximum value will be 1 minus n, but you will be starting with the 0. So if n is equal to 2, L is equal to 0 and 1, right? So it tells us about the angular momentum of the electron, and what is it trying to denote? It is just trying to denote the subshell. It is just trying that the shell consists of subshell, and how many subshell it possesses, that is given by the value of L. right? So we have, like, for the different value of L, we have the different subshells, right? So see that we have, according to the shapes, we have a specific name for the subshells. Like when L is equal to 0, then that subshell is nothing but S. And you know that from where this S has come, it has come from the name sharp. So that means the subshell has a sharp kind of you can say shape. That is why it suggests the name subshell as S. And if L is equal to 1, we say that the name of the subshell is P. We call it as principal, so P for principal. For 2, it is D, diffused for D. 3, then it is F, fundamental, and likewise we can have G, H, I, J, K, L, so on. But the question which you will be getting will be, I think, is definitely only till L is equal to 4, because it do extend beyond that, but you don't encounter questions like that, right? So you may get a question related to a G, but not definitely for you can say H or I or something. So it also determines the energies of the subshell. So look for, I'll just explain you in a better way. See, if I say N is equal to 3, then what the L is going to be? We know that L is nothing but N minus 1, and we have to start the value from the 0. So it is 0, 1 and 2, right? As I told you, when L is equal to 0, we call it as S subshell. When L is equal to 1, we call it as P subshell, and when L is equal to 2, we call it as D subshell. So that means the third orbit, this is an orbit, so that means the third orbit has how many subshells? It has 3s subshell, it has 3p subshell, it has 3d subshell. So these are the possibility of the subshells. So likewise you will be doing it, just look at the value of L and just see that if it is 0 it is S, if it is 1 it is P, if it is 2 it is D, likewise. Like for example, one more thing I would like to tell you, if N is equal to 1, so obviously L is going to be 0. So that means the probability of subshell that exists in a shell is only 1s. Can it be 1p? No, it cannot be 1p, because we don't get value here 1, and moreover N can never be equal to L, or you can say L can never be equal to N. So likewise we have this kind of thing. Sometimes you may get question like N is equal to 3, L is equal to 3, does this quantum number can exist for an electron? So you will say no, it won't exist, because L can never have the value same as N. It may have the one value less, but definitely it is not going to have the same value. So this is what we have the azimuthal quantum number. And likewise, if I tell you that suppose I have 3s, 3p and 3d, if I ask you that about their energies, like which of them possess the less energy, which of them possess the higher energy, so you are going to like confirm about their energies by doing N plus L. N plus L. Like for this 3s, N for 3s, N is equal to 3 and L is equal to S, that means 0, so that means total comes out to be 3. And when we do it for 3p, then it is 3, and for p it is 1, so it comes out to be 4. And when we do it for 3d, so obviously 3 plus 2, it comes out to be 5. So that means it has the lower energy, it has energy greater than this, it has energy greater than this. So likewise, we can just relate them according to the energies. So this is what I want to tell you, that azimuthal quantum number provide information about the angular momentum, tells us about the subshell, and also tells us about the relative energies of the subshell. And obviously its value is always going to be 1 minus N, and it starts from the 0, right? The third quantum number we have is the magnetic quantum number. I told you that from where we got that the idea about magnetic quantum number is that when we expose spectral lines to the magnetic or electric field, that is the Zeeman or the Stark effect, what happened, the lines got split further into many fine lines, right? So that suggests that the electrons get oriented in different directions when we apply magnetic or electric field. So that means it gives information about the specific orientation. And likewise, what it suggests actually, like depending upon the orientation, it suggests the existence of orbitals, right? So what do we have now? We have shell, in shell we have subshell, and in subshell we have orbitals, and in orbitals we have our electrons. So like from it is denoted by M, and what value it will depend upon? Its value depend upon obviously on L. It starts from minus L, 0 to plus L, or you can say its value is 2L plus 1 For example, see if I give you an example that suppose n is equal to 3, so you are going to write L is equal to 0, 1 and 2. You know that how to write. And for m, definitely it is going to be minus L, 0 to plus L. So likewise I am doing. So we start with minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1 and 2. So that means I told you it has value equal to 2L plus 1. So that means it has value equal to 2 into the maximum value plus 1, that means 5. And here you can count that these are 5. So they are just like what they are indicating, they are indicating the number of orbitals in a specific shell. Like here we are talking about this 2, that means we are talking about D. So how many orbitals does it possess? It possesses the 5 orbitals. So likewise we will be doing calculating the orbitals for them. So when L is equal to 0, that means we have S subshell, the orbital present in it is 0 because M will always be equal to 2L plus 1, or you can say minus L 0 to plus L, so obviously it is going to be 0. So we say that S has only one orbital. Second, when L is equal to 1, that means we are talking about P. So what values we can have? Obviously minus L 0 to plus L. So we have minus 1, 0 plus L plus 1. So how many orbitals? 1, 2, 3. That means 3 orbitals P possess. Similarly, D possess 5, F possess 7. Now we have the specific name for the P and the D one because they get oriented in different axes. So we have just named those orbitals, right? So in case of P, as I told you, there are 3 orbitals. So if an electron get oriented in X direction, it is said to be Px. If it get oriented in Y direction, it is said to be Py, and if it get oriented in Z direction, it is said to be Pz. So you have to learn those values, that plus 1 is for Px, minus 1 is for Py and 0 is for Pz. You need to remember that because sometimes you may get questioned like this, just write the quantum numbers for this, right. So here what you will be doing, that n is equal to 2, L is equal to 0 and 1, P means 1, so we will be just writing that value because it is specifically given that you need to mention the value for the P. So we will write only 1. And for M, definitely it is going to be plus 1 because it is X, and as I told you, X is plus 1. So that means you need to remember that plus 1 is Px, minus 1 is Py and 0 is Pz. Likewise, as I told you that D possess, the subshell possess 5 orbitals. So what are the names for that? Xy, Yz, Zx, x square minus y square and dz square. What is it? Again I am telling you, dxy, dyz, dzx, x square minus y square and dz square. So these are the name given to the 5 d orbitals, right? So you need to remember that minus 2 is for which orbital, plus 1 is for which orbital. You need to remember that because likewise you can get question for the d orbital as well. So if it is minus 2, it is xy. If it is minus 1, it is xz. If it is 0, this is dz square. If it is plus 1, dyz, and it is plus 2, it is x square minus y square. Just make a something kind of you can say, just try to relate them up and just try to learn them up, because you need to learn them. You learn in any way, we are not concerned with that. The concern is that you should be well versed that the minus 1 is for this, minus 2 is for this, and 0 for this orbital. Right. So this is what we have magnetic quantum number. The fourth one is the spin. As I told you that the spin quantum number just indicate the spinning, that whether it is spinning clockwise or it is spinning anti-clockwise. So how we write the spin quantum number? We write it with S, and the value it will possess plus minus half. It is always going to be plus minus half, indicating that it can be probably a clockwise or it can be probably a anti-clockwise. So this is how you are going to attempt question based on it, that how means we are going to calculate the n or this thing p or this thing, sorry, L, M or S for the specific electron, because these are actually trying to give the complete information of the electron. Now this is the time to do certain kind of numericals based on quantum numbers, because now we'll do, when we'll do the questions based on that.